scientific death.
Think about a simple campfire. To keep it burning, you need 3 specific things working together: a fuel, like wood, a heat source to get it started, and an oxidizer, which is usually just the oxygen in the air around us. If you take away even one of those pieces, the fire goes out. Standard rocket engines work on those exact same principles. They just scale the process up, mixing a fuel source with liquid oxygen to create a massive, controlled fire that generates enough thrust to reach space. During the 1950s, the race for space was moving at a frantic pace. Scientists were under immense pressure to find an oxidizer even more powerful than oxygen, pushing past established safety limits to see if they could squeeze more energy out of their rocket designs. This chart shows how one result of that research, chlorine trifluoride, compares to the oxygen we breathe. While oxygen helps things burn, this compound is so reactive that it pulls atoms apart from almost any surface it touches, forcing a violent chemical reaction. This chemical effectively rewrites the rules of fire. It doesn't need a spark to start a flame, and it doesn't need traditional fuel. It can turn materials we consider fireproof into an immediate, raging fire. We can see this in action by looking at a laboratory accident from the 1950s, a time when the procedures for handling such dangerous materials were still being written. A researcher was in the middle of transferring liquid chlorine trifluoride to a set of pipes. The seal on a valve, made of standard synthetic rubber, simply dissolved under the chemical stress and failed. The liquid leaked out of the broken valve and pooled onto the laboratory's reinforced concrete floor. Concrete is made of silicon and calcium oxides, substances that shouldn't catch fire. But the liquid snapped the molecular bonds holding the stone together. This released massive heat, and within seconds, the floor itself ignited, burning like dry wood. When a fire is this aggressive, traditional tools fail. Spraying water on the flames triggers a violent explosion, and trying to smother the fire with sand only provides the chemical more material to burn. In an environment where the floor burns and water causes explosions, the very concept of safety and containment disappears. The chemical also splashed onto the researcher. On contact, it triggered a flash of heat exceeding 2,400 degrees Celsius. This ignited his heavy leather boots and clothing instantly, causing deep thermal damage without needing a spark. As the heat spreads, the chemical reacts with the moisture in the air and skin, splitting into 2 different acid gases, hydrochloric acid and hydrofluoric acid. The hydrofluoric acid molecules are small enough to pass directly through the outer layers of the skin, traveling deep into the body's cells. Unlike acid burns that form protective scabs, these molecules permanently lock on your heart's calcium, stopping it within minutes. Simultaneously, it triggers a liquid-like decay, melting cellular structures and allowing damage to penetrate straight to the bone. In a matter of moments, the chemical overcomes the skin's physical protection, the blood's chemistry, and the body's internal structure. This tragedy, along with several other dangerous leaks, convinced the world that the chemical was simply too volatile to use. It was permanently banned from use in both military and commercial rockets. However, modern industry still needs tiny amounts of the substance for very specific work, like etching the microscopic pathways on computer chips. To do this safely, engineers had to invent a specialized way to move it. They developed a process called passivation, the only known way to stop the chemical from burning through the very pipes meant to hold it. First, engineers use pipes made of specialized nickel alloys designed to resist extreme corrosion. They then flood the inside of these pipes with pure fluorine gas. This gas bonds to the metal to create a microscopic, indestructible shield. This layer ensures the liquid chemical can flow through the system without ever actually touching the metal of the pipe. Using the chemical requires this microscopic barrier, a thin shield that physically separates the liquid from the rest of the world. Modern hazard teams have replaced traditional water-based extinguishers with tools designed specifically for the unique chemistry of these fires. They now use specialized drench systems and nitrogen cooling blankets that are designed to literally freeze a leak before it can react with the environment. We've moved away from the reckless experimentation of the 1950s, shifting toward an era of strict regulations and highly engineered safety systems. The story of this disaster marks the point where a chemical's desire to react simply outpaces our ability to safely contain it, reminding us that some powers are not worth the risk of trying to control them.
If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. And don't forget to comment below with your favorite emoji.